because she hadn't done a horse show in a year, and so she's mad at herself.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, June 18th, 9 a.m. And this is the Public Health Committee meeting. Ms. Stratman is ill, so I am substituting. This is Bill Roth, the Vice Chair. Please have roll call.
Ryo, Doobie,
We're here.
Nissis,
Dennis is here.
Carver,
Carver's here.
Young,
Here,
Roth.
Roth here.
Strathman is also here.
Mr. Tarver, are you there? You were a little muffled.
Yes, I'm here.
Still muffled.
Yeah. Come on, Bill.
All right. All right. There's no remote attendance that I see.
Except for Strathman.
Except for okay, which is fine. Can I get a approval of minutes from May 21st?
point of order, who is remote attendance?
That's what I'm asking. There was some,
Strathman,
Cheryl.
Stratman is here,
yeah.
and
So were there,
I've not seen Mr. Tarver online.
Just Bill. It just says Bill.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll assume that's him.
so were there?
Yeah, there's a bill as versus a broth. Okay,
Chairman?
yes.
So was there, were there emails sent out to notify us that,
Well, not to me because I found out when I walked in.
I know, but how does it, who gets those emails?
I think it goes to the county board.
Oh,
Normally they, I mean, and if you're sick, and which Ms. Stratman is, I
Right.
mean, that's a valid reason. So,
oh, absolutely. But I
Right.
was just curious on who, because Ms. Strathman would receive it. She's not here. Then that would go to Sanchez. He's not here.
Right.
So I was thinking it would go to you. You didn't see it.
I-
So, but I was just wondering who sees that and. Okay,
Mr. Young, I
Yes.
passed that on to Rachel.
okay, thank you, Cheryl. I'm sorry that you're
because
sick.
it goes to COB. I mean, it's a certain email that it goes.
There's
to.
also a phone call you can make.
All right.
And I'm not questioning it. It was out of curiosity.
understand.
Listen.
Oh, no, you're always welcome to ask.
Yes, I'm
Okay,
just-
can I get approval for minutes from May 21st?
I move for unanimous consent for approval of minutes in May 21st.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? We have one person registered right now, a Mr. David Young.
David Young. Last month, the Public Health Committee had two topics for discussion. One of those was gun awareness. And there was a proclamation that was passed about gun awareness. I spoke out about this. And I even spoke out about it at the Kane County Board meeting a couple weeks ago or last week. If you look at the 2023 Kane County Coroner Report, in 2023, gun violence accounted for 13 homicide deaths and 15 suicide deaths. So, assuming that, let's say that mental illness was involved with the suicide death, let's just talk about homicide deaths. Homicide deaths by guns was 13. This is on the Kane County Coroner website. Motor vehicle accidents, 44 people died from motor vehicle accidents. 47 people died from falling. 104 people died from drug and alcohol intoxication. So we had 13 people dying from gunshot wounds, and we had more than almost triple that dying from falling. Where's the resolution about being careful when you walk? How about when you, if you're old, make sure you don't fall. Hey, make sure you have a cane. But that's not going to happen. You know why? Because guns are the bad thing. And in my opinion, this public health committee and this public health department is strictly it's a political department, not necessarily a public health department. I mean, last month we had measles. No one has measles in Kane County. No one's died from measles in Kane County, but we spent half half of our committee meeting talking about measles. It doesn't affect anybody. Why don't you talk about things that affect people, like heart disease? How about the vaccines? You know, Ron Johnson had last month had like a 50-page report about all of the bad things about the vaccines, including myocarditis. I mean, myocarditis is the #1 problem with the vaccines, but we don't report about that here. And then lastly, what I looked on the website, what about last week we had the wildfires? I mean, at the very minimum, you guys, the Public Health Committee could say, hey, we have really bad air quality today. Why? Because of the Canadian wildfires. Therefore, people that have problems breathing stay inside. But we don't get that from the Public Health Committee, from the Public Health Department. So
Thank you, Mr. Young. That's all for public comment. Next, monthly report, financial budget report. Is there anything to report? Okay. Animal control.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My monthly reports and statistics are up there. If anybody has questions, of course, I am always available. We just completed our third low-cost clinic of the year. It was our June clinic. We did 121 rabies vaccines, which is fantastic for June. Usually June has statistically been lower with most people kids getting out of school, families going on vacation, things like that. So we were averaging about 7. It was great to get 121. We totally didn't expect it. So we've done 357 rabies on the year so far, 280 dogs, 77 cats, and to date, 57 microchips. We have our final 3 dates. We're excited to finally post, and I put new flyers outside. If anybody would like them emailed to you, if you like flyers dropped off, please, of course, let me know. August, which will be a Saturday clinic on the 23rd. September will be a Wednesday night on the 17th. And October, our final clinic of the year, will be on a Saturday, which is the 18th. If anybody has questions, concerns, anything they need, please let us know, and we will continue to promote these dates. And again, statistically, we are on par to continue to grow this clinic every year. We're hoping to reach close to 700 this year. So we're really excited that this is continuing to grow. It's very popular, and the responses from the citizens have been very positive. Thank you to those members and to Julie Mann, who constantly show up at the clinics. It's great to see you and the staff. It's to thank you to them. This staff is working 40 hours a week and then does these clinics on top of their normal job. Yes, we understand they're getting paid, but this is still a lot of work at these clinics to set up, to break down all the work that goes into the prepping, to the health better than anybody understands. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you to those staff, really, and to the volunteers for everything that they do. If anybody has questions, I'm always available. Please let me know.
Okay, any questions, Ms. Juby?
So I'm curious, why are our impound fees so high? It says on page 30 that our impound fees year to date are $13,000, $13,245 when it was budgeted to be $1,500. Is that like a mistake?
So we're doing next year's fiscal budget. We're actually learning some very interesting data. We're taking 4 of our revenue lines are going to start being combined into one, because we have found out that how they're being categorized from impound fees, animal pickup fees. Sorry, I'm trying to see from here and I apologize. Service reimbursement, and there's another reimbursement that's not currently on there. It's actually the next line on the item under reimbursement. We're actually going to start combining those. They should only be for impound fees straight. The other reason for that fee going up so much is we've brought on Carpentersville, and South Elgin is using us over Anderson now. So our intakes have gone up drastically. We also have, if you look at our return to owner statistically, are up again this year. All those factor into that impound fee. But really what we're doing is we're taking, for some reason, these impound fees, no matter who we take it from, if it's from our service contractor, if it's from someone coming through the front door, it is an impound fee. We are impounding that animal and receiving those fees, no matter who it's coming from. It's been divided over 5 line items for God knows how many years. I don't know why, But in part of making things easier for everybody to read and more consistent, we're bringing that down into one line item so you guys can actually start seeing better what's going on with our impound. So I'm actually really glad you brought this up because literally we just had this discussion and fixing it in the budget moving forward. So hopefully that answered your question.
Well, yes and no. It isn't, they're not added together now, though, correct? You're adding them together in the twenty
Correct.
twenty-six
We will be in the
budget?
2026 because you see it's divided up. Now, why the number's so high again has to do with those two new
Okay, so
service areas that we are now
it
serving.
just weren't broken. Okay, got it.
We
Okay, well,
didn't know that we would be receiving the amount of animals we've been receiving in South Elgin. We didn't know about the change from Anderson. Those were not known ahead of time to be able to budget. We also didn't know what the volume would be because we've never fully serviced them. So it is something we learned this year and it will be budgeted for. And not only that, like I said, we're correcting some of the issues we found in fixing that number.
great, congratulations. I like that you have $12,000 more year to date than you thought you were gonna
It-
have.
It's been much busier for the staff, but yes, we are holding.
But if you end up having to hire more staff, at least you have a revenue stream for
Yes,
it. So
there would be
I'm
the
glad
money
that
to
works.
finance it. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Follow up to that. Expenses then have gone up too, but are the fees covering the additional expenses?
Yes, we have set the fees in with our most recent one we did in December to help with the return to owner. That also factored into those impound fees. Those fees went up is also a factor in here. And it's so hard to predict. We don't know who's going to be straying, who's not going to be straying. We're kind of reading a crystal ball when we put together our budget. So we do the best we can. And like when we bring on two new serviceable areas, we didn't know what the volume was going to be to expect. So we do our best. I mean, it's always positive. It's better it's in revenue than the opposite. So I would rather have that
Well,
discussion.
especially this year with all the overall
Yes.
budget. So
Yes,
it's always good to hear some good news.
correct.
Yes, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brett, I heard you mention just in your comments about people going to you instead of Anderson. I was wondering what was promoting that. Have they stopped taking?
I
or-
can't speak to how their contract worked, and I'm just being honest. Carpentersville they were actually working direct with an animal hospital.
Uh-huh.
It's cheaper for them to drive it to us or pay for a warden to come pick it up than it was with the animal hospital. So it only made sense. They've been a great partner. Right off the bat, they purchased 50 rabies vaccines and held a massive clinic for all their citizens. It has been fantastic working with Carpentersville. The area just has a lot of strays and it's caused an increase, of course, into that area. In South Elgin, I don't know the whole logistics. I try to not get involved in the weeds. They just contacted us, informed us that, hey, we're going to be using you guys a lot more moving forward. That's all we were told, and I leave it at that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Pennis.
One last question, I guess. On your report, number of tags purchased across the board, pretty huge increase from last year, year to date. Why is that?
It has to do with, because we are now using a digital system to scan them all in. It's a matter of when, first of all, the vets get us the data. Some vets send it immediately. As soon as the June ends, we'll have it the first week, second week of July. Some vets that service thousands of animals are 2, 3, 4 months behind. So perfect example, we just received a copier box from an animal hospital yesterday that had a couple months in it. So when that check goes through, it's going to be a very nice month. But then when that data all gets scanned in, it's going to be a massive amount all at once. At the end of the year is really where I sit down and look at that number and go, okay, statistically, are we moving up in 1 year, 3 years, things like that? It's so hard to tell during the year just because of that fact of I can't guarantee when they're going to send me the data.
It could very well be that we end up pretty close to last year at the end of the year.
It usually is. Usually they're within a couple hundred, which is the average flux of people here. Also, people forget tags. We get it. Next year they pick it up. The year after, things happen. Life is busy. So that's why you really have to take the average, and within a couple hundred is good. When you start seeing the trend moving up, that's even better. It means population's moving up. So it's always good to see.
All right,
Thank you.
any other questions? Okay. Next up is Executive Director Michael Isaacson. Good morning, Michael.
Good to see you all. This morning, we want to really concentrate on sharing a little more in detail about one of our programs. And this month, we want to focus on our environmental health programs. So we have in the audience our Deputy Director or our Assistant Director of Environmental Health, Julie Weigel, and our two environmental health supervisors, Kristen Johnson and Colleen Nyland. They work with Director Onwuda, and they do a fantastic job making sure that our food in King County is safe. As we get into this time of year, especially, we have a lot of temporary events. And one of our responsibilities is to go out and inspect those events to assure that people are following the right guidance to make sure that we're not making people ill in the community. So our supervisor, Colleen Nyland, who again does a fantastic job, is going to share some more information about what our temporary food program is. And if you go out to any of the fairs, festivals, things like that, you'll see our staff there. So I'll turn it over to Colleen.
Thank you.
You have to talk really
Right into the microphone. Okay,
Yes, please.
wonderful. All right, so temporary food is a component of our food program. Our food program is the biggest part of what we do, and it is a component of that large program. So we're doing a lot of other things related to our brick and mortar establishments, mobile vendors, seasonal vendors, as well as our cottage food, home-based food businesses. What is temporary food is basically taking that, what you would have in a brick and mortar establishment, and putting it off-site. This would include sampling, free distribution, fundraising sales, and for-profit sales. So we're looking at all of those types of service. Types of events that you'll see: fairs and festivals, farmer and vendor markets. We're seeing quite a few of these, celebrations, events, large events, and other temporary setups, numerous types. The duration, frequency, size, and scope of these events can vary significantly. It can vary from a few hours to up to 14 days. The frequency can be one time, it could be recurring, weekly, monthly, annually. The size and scope can vary from one simple vendor for a few hours to numerous vendors and a complex food service operation. We did have the Live Golf event here a couple of times, and that was a very complex food service setup, similar to like a Lollapalooza, where you have numerous food outlets. You can kind of see pictures of those here. And it involved a lot of planning on our part and working with the vendors well ahead of time. Types of vendors that we see at temp events, certainly the temporary or tent vendors, mobile units, trucks, trailers, push carts. We see cottage food vendors. Those are those home-based business. There are different laws apply to them, and well as farmers that are selling their agricultural products. We don't regulate those unless they start to process those. So we're focused on foodborne illness risks. That's what we're trying to prevent here. It's the same risks as you would see in the brick and mortar establishments, but the risks are increased because the environmental factors are less predictable in these temporary events, and the equipment and resources that are being used are far less reliable. So there is an increased risk of pathogen growth, food handling mistakes, and contamination introduction. So our goal is to protect the public from foodborne illness, injury, and illness associated with temporary food. And we do that by ensuring the food is sourced, stored, and prepared properly before it gets there, which can be a challenge. That food is protected on site from those contaminants, and that food handlers are practicing safe practices when they're there. So prior to the event, we're looking to ensure that food is coming from an approved source and that it is prepared and stored in a licensed, inspected commercial kitchen. This does not apply to cottage food because that is, again, food-based business, but it's important that we verify that. And I like to just show this. On the left, you're going to see a very clean commercial kitchen. On the right, you're going to see like a photo from a dirty home kitchen. Now, I'm not going to say that every commercial kitchen is this clean and every home kitchen is as dirty as the one on the right, but we can only verify the commercial kitchens. We cannot verify what is happening in home kitchens and what those kitchens are like. So it's very important that all that food preparation happens in licensed commercial kitchens so that we can verify the condition of those. At the event, we're looking for temperature control, refrigeration here, cross-contamination being avoided, that the storage of the food and the non-food items that are single use that come in contact with the food are protected from contamination, that the area is protected with tents or some kind of temporary setup so that things like bird droppings aren't falling into the food, and that we're focusing also on preventing any hazards associated with chemicals, fire and flooding, not spraying Raid or other chemical contaminants, that fire is avoided. And we've had a few fire situations. This is some pictures from the milk pail when there was a fire. This is one from Swedish Days. And this disrupts not only the events significantly, but also creates a lot of corrective action At the event, we're also looking for safe food handling practices. We're taking people out of their typical environment, so they tend to make more mistakes. We're really focused on hand washing here. This is the proper hand washing setup that you see up here. We need to see that in place. We want to make sure employees are following proper hygiene practices, that they're using gloves and utensils and not touching food with bare hands. That they're washing, rinsing, and sanitizing properly, and that they understand that they have to check that sanitizer on a regular basis, that they're cooking food to proper temperature so it's safe, and they're not holding food for longer than it is safe to do so. And we ensure that that food, once it is heated and prepared, that it does not get cooled and reheated later, so that we are protecting the public from any future contamination. We also want to ensure that it's being managed and supervised by someone who has some knowledge of food safety when we're not there. So what are some factors for success? This all goes really well for us if we have time to plan, if we have time to vet vendors. When we get information ahead of time about the events, when we get the permit applications ahead, when we know what vendors are participating, it makes it a lot easier for us to check all of these things. When we have additional vendors coming, it makes it a bit more challenging. When the weather conditions are not favorable, it makes it a bit more challenging. And when the utilities are not functioning, it also makes it more challenging. Our activities are not limited to inspections on site. We actually do a lot of legwork prior to the event. We review the event information. We enter process review and issue permits. We try to vet those vendors. We look to see where they're preparing food, and we contact those vendors if we are not satisfied that they've provided sufficient information. We plan for the on-site inspections. Some of them are fairly complex, and we have to create a plan and involve numerous, if not all of our inspectors in some of these events. We communicate with the event coordinators throughout to ensure that they are our partners in this, and that we are doing the inspections and the vetting as efficiently as possible to limit the impact to the vendors who are trying to sell product at these events. We conduct the inspections, obviously. We address significant concerns in the field. This is really important that we get people to take corrective actions while we are there so that we mitigate any future risk, and then we follow up with anything necessary as needed. We have numerous challenges to the success in managing these events and food safety. When we don't get information ahead of time, it is impossible for us to vet vendors ahead of time, and then we have to base it on what we're seeing in the field. When vendors come late, they're unprepared or they're not cooperative, that can be very challenging for us. And they also sometimes try to avoid coming when we're there so that they might not have to have our permit. They might not need to be checked. And that makes things more difficult because then we have to collect permit fees and vet those vendors as they come in. And we are inspecting them as they are preparing to set up, as they are serving food. So we're trying not to get in the way of them doing business, but if they're prepared ahead of time, that makes it easier. If they're not, that makes it more difficult and impacts their ability to sell and make money during these events. We also have some challenges finding vendors at these events if they're large, trying to track them down and making sure that they're using the food trucks, that they're permitted with us and not a different one, an alternate one. When they're missing critical setup requirements and we have to correct those, or we have to send them to the store to get some additional materials because they don't have them and they're not prepared. If they're selling or serving food that is not allowed, we have to correct that. And we work with the vendor, the event coordinators to help us correct that. And sometimes we have to ask vendors to leave. And then we often see questionable food preparation and service practices. You're just seeing money in a cooler there. It's a little unusual, but we might see some practices that our inspectors, and we have a number of young new inspectors who need a lot of assistance in the field, and they frequently need to ask for a second opinion because they don't want to ask somebody to leave or ask somebody to throw something away without a second opinion. So they're needing to ask us, and this is evenings and weekends, and they need support. Other challenges, certainly failing or faulty equipment. Again, we're dealing with very unpredictable circumstances when they have no water, no power. We have weather events. We've had to wait out weather events for events to start. Sometimes there's access or security issues that prevent our access to the events, and we have to work around them. And we always, in environmental health, for as long as I've been at the department, had a significant issue with staff coverage. We are always looking to improve and do better. That is always our goal. We'd like to have more how-to resources for potential vendors. People do approach us asking us, how do I become a temporary event vendor? What do I need to do? And we do have some tips and tools for them. We do have a wonderful video that some staff members created some time ago. It is still very relevant. You saw some screenshots from that in the presentation. We'd like to be able to do more of those types of activities. We don't have a lot of time to consult, but we do like to be able to push things out to the public so that they have those resources available to them. We'd love to do more outreach and have that outreach more accessible to the public. We'd like to have more enhanced partnerships with our municipalities. We do work to do that so that they give us the information ahead of time for these events and that they're encouraged and motivated to do that. We're always looking for tools to increase efficiency. Myself, my counterpart, and our supervisor are always working to increase efficiency. So it's the job of the environmental health practitioner is easier to do, especially in the field. And as always, looking for more staff resources to cover things. I did include some consumer food safety information for summer. We'd like to be able to push out more of this information with more time. We'd love to be able to do that. We do have to focus a lot more time on those food establishments and those things that are required under our local health protection grant, but be able to push out some of this information so that customers or consumers and community members have an understanding when they're out having summer food events, those private events that we do not inspect and we do not cover, ways to keep that food safe, ways to keep themselves safe and free from the risk of foodborne illness. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, Mr. Young.
David Young. Oh, maybe I'll tell the story. Maybe I won't. So I won't. The question I have is that if there is let's just say that there's a food truck at a bar, restaurant, and whatever, they show up. That's the first thing I thought of here is how do you know that that food was prepared properly? Let's say it's a burger guy just showing up at a bar, smash burgers, whatever. How do you know that that is properly prepared? I mean, is there something that they show on the food truck that says, hey, I'm dealing with this vendor and I have this certification?
Yes, they're permitted through us. They have to come to our office. They get inspected. They fill out permit information. They fill out a commissary agreement with all of that information. And there usually is a sticker on the back of their truck that says the year. We give them a sticker. We issue them a sticker. And we do also inspect them in the field. When we see them at events, we also inspect them in the field. We can't catch them at every event, but yeah, right.
Okay. You guys want to hear the story?
Yeah.
I have two stories. No. So I'm at this event. I'm not going to tell you where I was, but it was in the fall, a couple of years ago. And it's chili season, right? So this guy just goes ahead and gets me my cup of chili. And he says, well, let me see if it's warm enough. No. Oh, yeah, here you go. I ate it. I did. I ate it. Recently, it just happened a couple of days ago. I was watching an event. I was at an event and I'm going to get myself a nice burrito. And I look through the kitty corner and there's a kitchen. There's a woman, she's got gloves on. She's shredding the cheese and breaking up the cheese. Wait, did I just see that? Yeah, I did 4 times. I ate the burrito. So what do you do as a consumer?
And you're alive to
Still
share
here.
with
Well, I
us.
mean, it's been a couple of days. I mean, it may take time before it affects me. So what do you, okay, so on a serious note, those are true stories, right? That stuff really happens. I mean, what do you do as just a regular citizen out there? Do you report them? I mean, that is okay, fine, maybe I have an iron stomach, but what if someone doesn't, you know? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. And as part of the presentation, as Colleen said, making sure that we have people on site who are trained in food safety is critical. So anytime you have concerns, and I get plenty of calls from people, actually, I want to commend our team again, because the majority of calls and emails that come to the health department are about environmental issues. And they do a wonderful job responding. So if you have something like that, it doesn't hurt for us to follow up and just remind people what the proper procedures are. So we can send someone out there and we can remind them, and it lets people know that somebody's watching them.
I'm going to send you an email now.
Yeah, please do. Anytime. But we have certified food handlers that need to be on site, and they've had that training. So we can do the inspection where we can make sure that the setup is correct and that the procedures are correct, that everything's in the right place. But ultimately, it comes down to human beings. So those folks need to have the education to be able to do it. And for the temporary events, as Colleen said, you're in a different environment where it's a lot easier to have things that introduce contaminants. But anytime you see something, if you have a question, let us know. And I also like to make the point, we are supportive of our businesses in Kane County. So this is a partnership with us. We're not out there to shut people down. We're not out there to try to shut down restaurants or to stop people from serving food. We want to provide education so that people can do that. And we're always looking for ways. There's been some talk of legislation with food trucks going around to different counties. And how do we assure food safety? Because that's our number one priority. But also, how do we make it manageable for folks who are trying to do business and trying to make a living? And again, I think the team does a great job with that. And the three folks I introduced, they have been on call. I've been at the health department 25 years. They are on call on a rotating basis all the time. And when we get call, a lot of times we get calls. A lot of us are on call, but we can, I can handle the call just over the telephone. When we get a call about a restaurant fire or an Ansel system that's gone off over a grill, our team has to go out there frequently. So really just, again, want to thank the dedication of these folks, because these are my 3 exempt employees for environmental health who have for years left the family birthday party to go and deal with something in the community so that they can help make sure that our residents are safe. So really appreciate the job that they do. It's a great team of professionals. So
Ms. Juby.
So I have a follow-up call on that. So when the food is being prepared in a location that doesn't prepare food all the time, say it only prepares food 3 days a week or 4 days a week, and there's really no guarantee that the same kitchen staff is there or the same person who would be contracting out to that event would be the same. How do you handle a situation like that? Because we don't want a whole lot of hungry horse people going through the world.
I didn't say.
I just saying, if it's an event like that, how is that handled?
But it was.
I know it was.
With even a brick and mortar establishment, you're always going to have a rotation of employees. We're doing a snapshot. What we're doing is a snapshot and giving them guidance. And that's why that certified food protection manager is so critical and why we really, really hound them to get that. And we do most of our follow-ups are for that issue.
So does the certification stay with the kitchen then?
No, it's with the individual.
It's with individual.
And they have to have numerous to cover all the shifts.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And I sent an email to Michael just during this meeting about that.
Mr. Gripe, you have a question?
Yeah, a
Same.
question. So,
Should be-
Michael, obviously, there's not enough people on anybody's staff to go to all these things, to all these trucks, to all these. So would it make sense, and you probably already do this to some extent, notifying the public, I'm just to see something, say something. I mean, obviously you don't want the businesses to think that we're hounding them or trying to shut them down. At the same time, the public health is a potential issue here. So I'm wondering if there could be some type of pleasant cooperative campaign, because I'm just guessing if I said this to my Kiwanis Club, yeah, if you see something and they're like, what do I do? I don't know. Call the health department, I guess. You know, what do I say? So just to let people, because then you're going to get a lot more eyes out there for the guy sticking his finger in the chili and
Don't eat the chili.
yeah, don't eat chili.
Don't eat it.
So anyway, just might be something good for us to help promote. Wouldn't cost anything. Just to say to
Yeah,
people,
excellent
something on the
idea.
website or whatever. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. No, we'll discuss how to get that word out better. And I think the public largely does a pretty good job of letting us know based on the input that we do receive from people. So
I think
Let
the
'em know
the
that-
missing piece might be that if I saw something, I'd go, ugh, and I just wouldn't eat the chili. But I'm like, should I call somebody? Yeah, I guess. Who do I call? Not quite sure. That's the part.
Who are you going to call?
David
Public
Young.
health.
No, I knew no idea that this is, so I'm glad that this was brought up today,
Okay.
actually.
Miss-
And I will use this as an opportunity to make a note, though, that lots of times when we're sick, there's different things like norovirus, which spreads very easily that I could have just gotten from this microphone, and I go and I wipe my nose and something like that. So just because someone ate somewhere and they got sick doesn't mean that food establishment made them sick. So it's a balance. I like your idea, and we can push the word out there, but we always like to remind people, because frequently we get the call, I just ate a sandwich half an hour ago and now I have E. coli. No, you don't. That's not how it works. But I mean, we don't say that, but we will follow up and we will investigate. But it is a balance, because there's lots of things out there that can make us sick, certainly.
Mr. Pendicis.
Yes, and Bill Tarver's waiting on line too, so Bill, you could go after me. What is the requirement for certification? Is it like number of employees that are serving? There has to be X number of employees per employee serving? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
I mean, for the certified food protection
Yes.
manager, it has to do with the risk level of the establishment. A low risk level establishment wouldn't have to have it. That's mostly prepackaged food, or a food that doesn't require temperature control. For anything else, we require it for having one person on site at all times while operating. So it's about time frame and coverage in that
They're
regard.
serving chili, they have to have at least one person certified.
I shouldn't have said, I shouldn't have shared that story.
Thank you.
Sam, there's cupcakes over there. I'm going to make sure that I sample each one of them for you guys.
Okay. Mr. Trevor, you have your hand raised.
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. What a great discussion. Quick question. This goes to what David was talking about. I assume that you follow the Illinois Department of Public Health when it comes to the regulations. Are there any regulations that King County has that is more strict, or that is different than what the state offers or suggests?
I mean, we work pretty closely, and I will defer to the experts in the room, but we also use federal USDA food code. Are there any county?
In terms of enforcement, not
Okay.
necessarily.
Yeah, no, we don't think so, Bill.
Okay, thank you.
There's plenty at the state and federal level. And as we talk about staffing, this is a position, and we're in union negotiations now, but this is a position where we are constantly short-staffed. I like to say I really patted myself on the back when I took this job, because I created 2 new positions, and we have yet to be fully staffed in the 3 years that I've been in this position. We have about over 40% turnover last year for this role. And the training for the environmental inspectors is over 600 hours. So it's a huge investment. And then also, because we're always short-staffed, that continues to put additional strain on the people that we do have, because now they're covering, oh, by the way, you're not just doing Batavia and Geneva. We also need you to pick up this piece of St. Charles. And by the way, there's 40 festivals going on this week that we need to get to. So not to get too much into it, we're trying to raise rates so we can be more competitive, because we're under all of the other communities around here. So we're in the midst of negotiations and working with the labor management team at the county here. But this is something that if we're fully staffed, as Colleen alluded to, that will give us a lot more opportunity to be more proactive with a lot of the food safety things, because we're really surviving now.
Yes, Mr. Young.
Just a comment. Why not, like, Swedish days, right? Why not have contractors that are, and I don't even know if it exists. I'm making this up. Let's say you had contractors that had these certifications. I mean, why not hire them temporary for that? Does that even exist? Is that even a possibility?
I mean, there are people who, this is a statewide issue. There are people who can come in and help, but they still have the same training requirements. So I don't, and again, I don't know if there's.
We have explored that option, and there aren't that many contractors out there. In fact, we didn't see any contractors that we could hire that had the training, because, you know, you have to have the training and then know all the county codes that are required for the job. So you just couldn't pick up anybody on the streets.
There's an opportunity for a new business.
Yeah, yes.
Seriously.
I would like to share. I've actually had experience working with the health department. I'm with the Knights of Columbus, and every year we do the regional meet at Marmion, and I've been running it for 10 years. So one of these years I'll figure out how to do it correctly. And I've been real impressed with the public health people that come in. I mean, the application is filled out by Special Olympics, but our council runs it, the St. Charles Council, and we prepare 1,800 free lunches for the athletes and coaches and volunteers. And we come in, it's Saturday, Sunday, we come in and Friday set up. Every year we wipe down the counters because they don't use, you know, we're using the football concession stand. So that they have all the equipment, coolers and warmers. But I always wipe down the tables every year when we come in. We use tablecloths on the table where we're wrapping the food, and I replace them every day. And then we wipe it down. And I always do the attitude, leave it better than you find it. And they come in, and I've been real impressed with the professionals, you know, and they do it. And I don't follow around, but I said, if you have any questions, ask. So, and we passed every time. So that's the good thing. But I like the idea of the tips and the stuff, because I use 50 volunteers each day. So it'd be nice if I could maybe share some of that with them, because you can always do better.
And the team does have, we'll share this presentation, but there is a link to a video on how to set up a temporary event, which is, people really like the video to actually see how to do all of it. So,
right. Okay. Well, thank you for that presentation, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Resolution.
So the first resolution is part of the new Office of Community Reinvestment programming that just last week you voted to move over to the health department. So I do want to say we're very excited. We have 5 employees from OCR. They're going to be joining Director Alleman's team in our planning and information management, largely focused on homelessness and housing support in the community. So those 5 individuals, we're just starting to transition now. I do have 3 resolutions related to their programming. The first one here is authorizing agreement with HUD for the what we call the HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System grant. So this is just authorizing the chairman to accept this grant, and this is budgeted.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second, please?
Juby moves.
Pennis is second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Young.
David Young, I was reading through this. What is a homeless management information system?
Yeah, so this is actually a system where we keep track of all individuals who have been documented as being unhoused. So as people go around to different shelters, there's information about those individuals that goes into this database.
Oh,
Okay.
thank
Any
you.
other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Arroyo. Juby,
Juby, aye.
Genesis,
Pennis, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Roth.
Yes. Resolution passes. Okay, your next
Strathman,
resolution.
yes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
For item C, I'm going to ask that we do not call this resolution. Unfortunately, just this morning while we were sitting here in the room, I did receive notification. This was a competitive grant that we had applied for. Due to timing, we always try to get ahead of the curve and get this on an agenda so that we don't have to wait another month.
Right.
But we found out that we did not receive this particular grant. So if we just don't call it,
Okay, that's fine.
moving.
So it won't come back because we didn't
Correct.
receive. Okay, thank
Right.
you.
Moving on to item D, authorizing renewal of support services contractor for the homeless information management system. So the former Office of Community Reinvestment has a contract with an individual who helps to manage the HMIS. And this is a renewal. It's been reviewed by the state's attorney's office. So this is just seeking authorization to be able to sign the renewal with that contractor.
And that's covered by all the grants.
Yes, this is all budgeted. Yes.
Okay,
I-
let's do a motion first, David, and then we can discussion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
second was Ms. Juby. Thank you. Okay, discussion.
Quick question. How many homeless people are we tracking here? I mean, I guess there's two, it's a two-part question. How many homeless people have been even verified? What's the number? And then how many of them are going to be on this system that you were talking about?
I will have to get back to you with that answer. So,
Okay.
I'll
Because this is
look
all
into it.
new. This is all new because you are now taking over part of what was done by a department, the other department. So that's
Correct.
why this is,
Yeah, we've had it for 3 days, right?
well, you should know.
Right. Right. But we will, and I think it'll be a good presentation
Oh,
in
yeah.
the future. So,
Right.
but it's a great question. I'll get an answer and respond.
And I would expect we'll get more communication than we have in the past. And that's not hard for them to do that.
Well, it's nothing like we see in the streets of Seattle or San Francisco or any of that. I mean, but I'm just curious as to what that number is.
But it's higher than you think. I think there's a lot of it's hidden, like Lazarus House in St. Charles. They stay overnight, but then they kick them out in the morning.
Right.
And they disappear. You know, some of them are working, but not all of them. And sometimes I come across some of them, you know, which is sad, but yes, Miss Juby.
So does this count in doubling up too, or is this just someone who doesn't have a permanent home?
This would be, let me get back and
Okay,
provide a more informed
Yeah,
answer.
I'm just
actually.
curious because the doubling up technically is homeless and education. And I just didn't know if it was pertaining to this, so.
Yeah, I don't believe that gets you on HMIS, but I
Okay.
agree with that is the definition we
Good.
use. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Arroyo. Doobie,
Aye.
Genesis,
Genesis, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Strathman,
Yes,
Roth.
Yes, and Mr. Tarver is on, so oh, no?
No, Ms. Strathman asked me to notify Rachel that he's not approved for remote voting.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Resolution's approved. Okay, and then the final one, Mike?
And the final resolution is authorizing continuance of an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Elgin. And they actually pay us to manage this. So they get their own funding, and then Kane County supports a countywide effort. So this is an agreement that's been vetted by the state's attorney's office, and we're just seeking authorization for the chairman to sign it.
Okay, can I get a motion and a second, please?
Genesis moves.
Second.
Okay, Genesis and Young second. Okay, discussion? Mr. Gripe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sounds cool. What is it?
It's
Continuum
13,
of care.
John.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the different communities get direct funding. So this is an opportunity where the city of Elgin gets direct funding, but we manage something that's called the continuum of care. And what this is this is a requirement in order to provide funding to community organizations. You're required to have a continuum of care, which is made up of stakeholders who are serving the homeless population in your community. So before you are eligible for this federal funding, You must convene this group who meets together, works jointly. It's kind of the federal government's carrot to be able to get people to work closely together. And the reason that we have this separate intergovernmental agreement with Elgin is because they have their own funding. So this is just them paying to support to be part of it.
Thank you.
And then we do have, I actually thought that the agreement was in the packet, but I can forward the agreement if
Yeah,
anybody's
I think
interested
that
in
would
seeing
be
that.
informative for us to be aware of. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Arroyo,
Yes.
Doobie,
Juby, I.
Genesis,
Genesis, yes.
Young,
Yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Roth.
Roth, yes. Okay. Is there any old business? Okay. Can I get a motion to replace reports on file?
No, you guys, Arroyo, reports on Yas consent. Sorry, Yas consent reports on file.
Unanimously, please. Can you request it to be unanimous, please, mister?
Yes,
Well, you have to say it.
I said that.
Okay, I didn't
Did I
hear
say
it.
it?
All right,
I tripped over my words.
okay, that's fine.
Arroyo request unanimous
All
consent.
right,
to put
reports are on
on
file. No need for executive session since I don't see any assistant state's attorney. Any new business?
I got some new business. Scott from Emergency Management just sent, there's gonna be some serious storms coming this afternoon today, so be careful out there. And then this weekend, going in the next weekend, got a threat level 3 of 4 for heat and humidity. It's gonna be dangerous out there. Not that you guys don't have enough to do. Is there anything you do as far as like heat and humidity?
We do. So we work closely with the Office of Emergency Management. Our primary role is serving as a amplifier of messaging about where cooling centers are in the different communities. So I would assume, just because we have a great team, that information is already making its way onto our website and through social media. And then if there is a need to escalate, we have volunteers and other folks who can help, but largely that goes through Scott's group at the OEM.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion, Mr. Gripe? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Right in on the wire.
Right under the wall.
Thank you, by the way, on the website for listing Corbella Clinic. Great resource. And we had chatted about TLC, which is an even bigger counseling group, all free. And they have more locations. So just adding them would be great, but the resources are really, really nice.
Excellent.
And speaking of resources, you know, and thinking about the number of deaths from different things, what Mr. Young was speaking about, it's a huge issue. We all know it's a huge issue, but if there's anything we could do to try and I don't know what it is, but the drug problem and how many people die because of that. You know, in some of the ride-alongs I've done and other things, I mean, we all know it's out there. But anything you guys could do to just elevate that, I think, you know, all we'd have to do is save one more person, and that's one more we could save from pretty much anything else that we do. So, you know, it's obvious, it's there, but I think we're so used to it that we don't talk about it enough or in the right way. So you guys know how to do that. But anything we could do to just say, hey, if you've got issues, here are resources, if you're struggling, if, you know, and again, the resources are there, but I think people accept it too much. That includes all of us. So.
Right.
anyway.
Yeah, no, we'll come back and do a deeper dive on that because we have a lot of resources in place. And it is certainly something that impacts most families, know somebody who's struggling. And then also I did hear Mr. Young, so we will come back and talk about kind of leading causes of death, leading causes of illness in our community and some of the different things that are resources out there. So definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion for adjournment, please? Okay, Mr. Young. Okay, Juby seconds. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Aye. Thank you.